Assalamualaikum, Perween. We need to plan your visit. Sahar doesn't believe you're really coming.
Of course I am.
Hey, listen, I'm sorry I'm on my way to a meeting with the Climate Commission. I'm going to call you tonight, okay?
Acha Baba, enjoy your meeting.
Don't forget to call, huh?
I won't. Speak later.
हाँ तो बोलना नहीं.
I love you. Bye. Faridat, water board official, please.
अनवर मैं हूँ. आखिरकार किसी न किसी नतीजे पे पहुँच रहे हैं.
You'd be gone.
Last meeting.
It's getting dark.
I know.
You should already be home.
Yeah.
मोहतरमा, आप अपना अमेरिकन आइडल मिस कर रही हैं?
Don't be silly, Walidat. Of course I'm recording it.
कम थी बचपन में.
अरे बेटा वो मुझ पे गया है. मैं लेता हूँ.
नहीं अब परवीन होगी.
ओके.
नानी खाला को गाना सुनाओगे? अनवर भाई, अस्सलाम वालेकुम.
Ami, what is it?
Perween has been shot.
Motorbike at the time of the shooting. Initial reports say that Perween Rahman, a leading charity worker in the city, was murdered at 6:30 local time. No motive has been established and no political group has admitted carrying out the attack. Karachi citizens are said to be devastated. Ms. Rahman was a well-known figure in the city, whose organization, the Orangi Pilot Project, worked to benefit the lives of Karachi's poorest people. She was a trained architect.
Bye. क्या?
There was nothing I could do about it. How could they? Sorry.
Faisal bhai.
Aquila, I'm very sorry.
Where is she?
The women have got her ready. I'll take you to her. The police have returned most of her belongings.
ये मेरी प्यारी छोटी बहन किसी हमारे साथ।
कम बारिशों की वजह से दरिया सिंध में पानी की मिकदार कमतर दर्जे पर पहुंच चुकी है और इंतजामिया ने कराची शहर के लिए पानी के कोटे का ऐलान कर दिया है। शहरियों के मुताबिक पानी की कमी खतरनाक हद को छू रही है, जिसकी वजह से शहरी पानी के लिए टैंकर इस्तेमाल करने पर मजबूर हैं। ये बात की जा रही है कि पानी
अस्सलाम वालेकुम परवीन।
वालेकुम सलाम।
She's through here.
इस आने का मुझे बेहद अफसोस है। जरा बहुत ही प्यारा नाम है। शुक्रिया। जहाँ तक मैं समझती हूँ जराम की वफात गंदा पानी पीने से हुई। वो पानी कहाँ से आया था? पाइप से? आयशा, मेरा नाम परवीन रहमान है। मैं ओरंगी पायलट प्रोजेक्ट के लिए काम करती हूँ। कराची में पानी की शदीद कमी और ख़राब इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को देखते हुए हम ओपीपी में एक प्रोजेक्ट शुरू कर रहे हैं ताकि किसी और बच्चे का अंजाम जराम जैसा ना हो। आयशा, आपके इस इलाके में मेंस वाटर सप्लाई है? नहीं?
यहाँ पाइप्स हैं लेकिन पानी नहीं। 20 दिन में एक बार आता है।
20 दिन? फिर आप क्या करती हैं?
मैं कपड़े धोने के लिए गड़े से पानी ले आई और जरा ने उससे पी लिया था। मेरी गलती है।
आयशा, नहीं,
मेरी गलती है।
आपकी गलती नहीं है। आपकी गलती नहीं है आयशा। आपकी गलती नहीं है।
The water board says there's a good supply in this part of Orangi.
Water once in 20 days is good?
Did you know they were cutting water in Orangi?
It's not cutting, it's rationing.
Then it should be equal across the city, right? Do you see them rationing in Clifton? I mean, parts of Orangi are almost dry and people out there cannot afford tanker water.
Okay. So what do you propose?
The water board are running the mains tomorrow night. I'm going to go to the pump and see what's going on.
Okay. Take Walidat with you, huh?
Sure.
चल 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 जल्दी कर
ये जो चल रहा है 4 साल से ऐसा ही है सब। जिसे सुनिए जल्दी करना अंदर देख। आप इसे कैसे पी सकते हैं? अरे हमें जो भी मिल रहा है हम वही ले लेते हैं। चलो चलो।
उन्होंने पानी बंद कर दिया। हम यहाँ खड़े हैं। चलो चलो। तुमने पानी बंद क्यों कर दिया है? हम मजबूर हैं।
मतलब वाटर बोर्ड में क्या क्या नाम क्या है उनके, बोलिए।
तो ये बताओ तड़के से पानी क्यों खरीदते हैं?
पानी क्यों नहीं आ रहा?
मैंगो भी रोड पे जाइए और वहाँ जा करके पता कीजिए।
मैंगो भी रोड पे क्या है?
So, this mains pipe is supposed to supply the water board's pumps in Orangi and northern districts. Why is that hydrant not on the water board's map? Yesterday, an engineer said it doesn't exist.
Again, these tankers don't belong to the water board.
कैमरा अंदर रख। कैमरा अंदर। कोई फोटो नहीं लेगा। पब्लिक जगह है।
और हम कोई बखेड़ा नहीं चाहते।
जर्नलिस्ट हो, कौन सा अखबार? प्रेस अलाउ नहीं है यहाँ पे।
फिक्र ना करें, हम जर्नलिस्ट नहीं।
इस बिल्डिंग का मालिक कौन है?
अपनी औरत को काबू में नहीं रख सकते।
एक मिनट, ये औरत क्या लगा रखा है? हाँ, अगर आप हमें नहीं बताएंगे तो हम बिल्डिंग के कागजात चेक कर सकते हैं।
जो मर्जी चेक करें।
वो तो हम करेंगे।
Let's go.
शुक्रिया।
Let's go.
Anwar, they're stealing water from people and sending it back to them in plain sight.
Let's go.
We know our city is running out of water. And the climate change, it'll only get worse.
So, the water we still have is becoming a valuable asset. And that's why we believe they're stealing it.
We need to know what's really happening. See if you can find more hydrants.
I followed the trucks to the hydrants and they led me to this area, close to Mangopir Road, with 3 hydrants and all of them undocumented. And the biggest one
And what
yet.
about these?
So these were taken yesterday. A huge operation, 5 trucks at a time.
ये में इतने ही हाइड्रेंट्स नहीं हैं। हैरत की बात तो ये है कि नॉर्दर्न बाईपास के पास इससे भी कई ज़्यादा हाइड्रेंट्स हैं।
We'll train you to create new maps of the city that show where these hydrants are. Count the tankers leaving each hydrant. How much water are they taking? Who owns them? Where do they go? If we want people to listen to us, we need evidence.
40 hydrants. They're taking water all over the city.
And there could be more. We haven't even started mapping the eastern districts.
This is a major criminal enterprise, Perween. We are out of our depth.
We need to keep going, Anwar.
Perween Rahman, known to many as the mother of Karachi, was killed by a gunman outside a charity that has been her home for the past 30 years. The charity is the Orangi Pilot Project in Orangi town.
Perween Rahman gave up a career in architecture to work in the poorest neighborhoods, delivering vital development programs to over 3 million people across Pakistan.
The crowds gathered here today to pay their respects say that the voice of the poor has been silenced.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
There is a large police presence on the streets as tension and anger build among residents in Orangi. Pressure is mounting on the authorities to catch who killed Perween Rahman.
As a spotlight is shone on Pakistan, the international community is demanding answers about how this could happen.
Police have a cordon in place around Orangi town and say they are closing in on a lead.
They say they found the man that killed Perween.
They shoot some Taliban to keep us quiet. What do they think? We are stupid?
No, it doesn't make any sense. 3 days after she was killed, case closed.
Aquila.
Anwar Bhai said the police barely asked any questions at the scene. No investigation. और फिर इसका laptop ले गए. If this is a terror attack, what do the police want with Perween's laptop?
What do you see?
This is all too easy.
Please be careful whatever you are implying.
You don't want to know who did this to her?
Of course I do. This is Karachi. You know how things work here.
She worked for Karachi and Karachi killed her. मुझे नहीं समझ आ रहा मैं क्या करूं? If it were me, Perween would have known what to do. I can't come home with you tomorrow.
Please don't do this.
I'm sorry, but I owe this to Perween. As you can see, water theft is a very serious issue.
There is some theft. Water is scarce. Anything with value people will trade. Inventor the market overcharges for figs. What can you do? The whole world runs on supply and demand.
People can live without fix. We can't live without water.
And full of criminals building illegal hydrants. This city has bigger problems.
We've met people spending half their wages on water. Many who can't even afford that. What are they supposed to do? Children are dying in their homes.
You're not a school teacher. You don't need to lecture me.
Don't I? Because to me it seems you need educating.
We found illegal hydrants operating in the open. Someone is protecting them.
Who are they paying? Where do their profits go?
I'm against corruption.
Then do something about it.
देखिए, सरकारी कोटे से सरकारी दाम पर पानी मिलना आपका हक है। कराची के हर इलाके में यही होता है। हाँ? असल में वो लोग आपका पानी गैर कानूनी तरीके से हासिल कर रहे हैं। वो लोग पानी चुराकर अमीरों को बेच रहे हैं और अफसरान उन्हें देखकर भी अनदेखा कर रहे हैं। हम शिकायत के लिए सबूत जमा करेंगे जो हम शाया करेंगे। कराची हमारा शहर है और हम यहाँ ये नाइंसाफी चलने नहीं देंगे। $161 illegal hydrants across the whole city. They're stealing 41% of all Karachi's water. That's 270 million gallons a day.
That's worth over $500 million per year.
My condolences for your loss. बताइए, what may I do for you?
शुक्रिया जनाब, आपने मेरे लिए टाइम निकाला. You see, we are having some difficulties to get information from the investigating officers at Pirabad and Manghopir stations.
What information?
There appears to be some anomaly in the details that have been released. We want to know why the officers went after Qari Bilal.
Ballistics confirmed that casings from the murder site matched the 9mm pistol that was with Qari Bilal.
And what was the motive?
Terrorism, ideology.
But this was a targeted killing.
Madam, some people don't like a woman working in traditional areas like this, telling them what to do. Maaf kijiye. I must get on with my work.
But sir, the Taliban always claim responsibility for their attacks. They have never admitted to killing Perween. I think that this case is related in some way to her work. Someone ordered her killing.
It's just a conspiracy theory.
No, I am requesting you to reopen the case, to investigate who might have had a motive to kill my sister. क्या आप ये करेंगे?
You live in Abu Dhabi, don't you? Perhaps that's why you do not understand. 13 other people were murdered that day in Karachi. I would advise you not to do the same mistake as your sister. Go back home.
Varna, will I also be killed by the Taliban? Thank you, sir, for your time.
As the police refuses to reopen the case, the courts are our only option for appeal. Therefore, I suggest that we file a petition in the Supreme Court in Islamabad.
जनाब सब बेकार है, जाने वाली तो चली गई, उसका कातिल भी लकीर पीट के क्या करेंगे आप?
तो क्या हम हाथ पे हाथ धरे बैठे रहें? यही तो प्रॉब्लम है ना? Nobody wants to talk about what actually happened to Perween. आप कुछ पूछेंगे नहीं. You are all too afraid. We all know what Perween was doing and who benefits from corruption in this city. The water thieves are working hand in glove with the land grabbers. Our police and politicians are in their pockets. It's a mafia. So let's name it.
You can go to court. You know who we are facing. Do you think they'll stop? Another OPP director was threatened 2 days ago. They want to silence us. They want us to go away.
I'm so sorry. वो ठीक तो है ना?
Yes, for now it's just a threat. But you need to understand. To kill Perween, they had to only pick up the phone and pay $80 to a man with a gun. And they can do it again tomorrow to any one of us.
Aquila, you should be with your family. This is too dangerous. It's over.
Sudha, Islamic.
सुनो, जिस मामले से तुम्हारे कोई ताल्लुक नहीं है, उससे दूर रहो।
कौन बोल रहा है? आपको ये नंबर कैसे मिला?
हम तुम्हें दोबारा खबरदार नहीं देंगे।
कौन है ये? कौन बोल रहा है?
Two political workers were shot dead today in separate parts of the city. Gunmen opened fire on a Quran club in Lines area at 8 o'clock, followed by the murder 2 hours later of an activist and father of 2 outside an apartment complex in Orangi Pilot. Investigating officers are
So we show how much water is stolen? Of course, we don't say who's doing it or who benefits.
You don't need to do that. 40% of our water is stolen.
You think the men at the top of the chain are running a couple of hydrants in Orangi?
So, what are you saying? Forget we know?
I'm saying leak it. Leak it to the press. Don't put your name on it. Don't put OPP's name on it.
But that's what we do, Anwar, isn't it?
Is it? We do development, not investigative journalism. If you publish this report, you will make enemies and they will retaliate. What do we gain from that? How does that further our work?
You think people will trust us if we ignore it? Everything's for sale. The criminals who used to deal drugs and guns are now stealing our land and water. If we don't stand up now and tell them to stop, what will be left? We have to say no more. And it has to be in our name.
An explosive report published today by the Orangi Pilot Project lays bare the shocking scale of water theft in Karachi.
Angry crowds are on the street protesting against the authorities. They're accused of turning a blind eye to injustice.
This is what a city looks like when it's running out of water. But experts predict that the scarcity of water here is something that will affect many cities across the globe in years to come. Questions are now being asked about how the scale of water theft can be so widespread without the knowledge of the city's authorities.
Illegal hydrants across across Karachi are being dismantled, but to keep the pipes flowing, our city needs people like Perween Rahman to continue fighting the criminals stealing our water.
Vested interests in the city don't want things to change. But I believe we have a responsibility to help all people live with dignity. We must be the difference.
Hello? Hello? Anwar bhai? कहाँ हैं सब लोग?
We moved them out of Orangi. Maybe it's safer. I don't know. We can't carry on much longer like this.
You're closing?
So, why are you here, Aquila?
This place was her life. The last time I was here, we sat here, talking.
It was always difficult to get her to leave the office. There was always one more thing to do.
You know, this was us once. When war broke out, we were forced out of our homes. Literally, we were herded into crowded camps. We had nothing. No shelter, no running water. I was 22. Perween was barely 15. You know, that feeling of intense dispossession never leaves you. For me, I built a family. For Perween, it was all this. Seeing it like this, it would break her heart.
But without her, I can't put more people in danger, Aquila.
So we let them silence her. They make their millions while the people of Karachi drown in dust.
My lovely baby sister.
This was her family. This entire city.
I want you to take a piece of Karachi back to Abu Dhabi with you.
I would much rather take you. अस्सलामुअलैकुम सहर।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम मम्मी।
अबू हैं घर पे?
जी
तो बुलाना जरा।
Abu, Ami wants to say hello.
Aquila, assalamu alaikum.
वालेकुम सलाम।
We are all coming to the airport tomorrow to welcome you home.
I need to do something, Seher. Perween made us into better people just by being who she was. I need to do something.
Everyone told me that you are committing suicide. Why are you coming to this place? But the issue is that how to overcome the fear. You have to believe in yourself and the work, and it gives strength. And once you get strength, you get out of fear.
I cannot let what Perween did and what was her life and the immense joy that she would get from it, I cannot let it just vanish. Perween was all about teaching, but also all about learning from you, from each one of you. And one day you will become teachers and you will teach the same principles that Perween lived on: justice, with ethics, with fairness, and with a great deal of joy. All of you can be Perween. You men also. She made us into such good people. I didn't think I was capable of being a good person, but she made me that. She inspired me, and she's inspired all these people, young and old, that you see. All our aspirations are equal. They are emulating her. She inspires us, she's there. There's not a nanosecond when she isn't. You know, she's there all the time. And it's always to make us better people. Always.
to run out of water in Cape Town, South Africa.
Big cities are water stressed. These figures
an infinite supply of water in the world.
Set to heighten scarcity around the world.
England will not have water to meet demand.
Might run dry by 2025.
Wars of the next few decades could be fought over access to water.
There's one thing more powerful than all the armies in the world, and that is an idea whose time has come.
Karachi is an enormous city. It's vast, it's busy, it's hectic. There's almost 20 million people that live there. It's dusty, it's noisy. It's a city with real energy. It's also a city that's very difficult to make a film in. Into Dust is a film about the water crisis in Karachi, Pakistan. I guess you could see our film on two levels. On the one level, as a human story, it's about the relationship between two sisters. On the other hand, fundamentally, this is a story about water. The scarcity of water in Pakistan, but that's a sort of a lens to look at the scarcity of water around the globe, and the kind of things happening in Karachi today are the kind of things that lots of other cities could be facing in the next 10, 20, 30 years. Perween Rahman was an extraordinary woman working in a difficult part of Karachi, and she was somebody who dedicated her life to helping those less fortunate in society.
Ever since she was a child, I mean, she would resist. If there was anything that was wrong, she would stand up. You know, as a kid, she'd stamp her foot and she'd stand up for that. You know, she had this stubbornness or whatever, you know, and she could not tolerate any kind of unfairness.
She worked for an NGO called the Orangi Pilot Project, and in her work she came across two big things that were particularly unjust. That is the stealing of water and the theft of land.
What happens is that the water is stolen through hydrants, you know, and this is then filled into tankers, and these tankers are then sold into to the industries, mainly to industries. So that results in the water shortages in the poor areas. So the poorer areas then have to buy water, which is rightfully their own. They have to buy the water.
Hundreds of millions of dollars were being siphoned out of the public water system every year and going into the pockets of criminals and people higher up in the chain who were, turning a blind eye to this or overseeing it. In the poorer neighbourhoods, people are only getting water sometimes once every 20 days. And the price they're paying for it is staggering. In Karachi, people can be spending up to 50% of their wage on water.
Through meticulous recording and documentation of how water was being stolen and who was stealing it, they were able to bring out a report quantifying it, that this is what is supplied, this goes into the pipes of the citizens, and this is what does not, and this goes into the tanker. This was published, this was then launched in 2009, and this led to a lot of the illegal hydrants being demolished. She documented it in an irrefutable manner, so people could not dispute that there were illegal water hydrants in police stations, there were illegal water hydrants in schools. She was trampling on very, very powerful toes by doing all this.
One day after leaving her office, about 6 o'clock, a motorbike pulled up alongside of her car and fired 4 bullets into it, and Perween sadly was killed. We were all a bit shocked at how, little coverage internationally there'd been about her work and her death. Grundfos is a global company from Denmark who manufacture water pumps, which are an essential part of the water infrastructure in many homes. Grundfos is owned by a philanthropic foundation, the Grundfos Foundation, and we partnered with them for this film.
Our overall goal here as a company is to do better for the world and to leave it in a better shape than how we inherited it. This will be exciting. We have an obligation to solve some of the world's biggest problems around water scarcity and energy problems or climate issues around the world. We feel like that's an obligation, and that comes all the way back from the founder, and that's why we have kind of built the company on that foundation. I'm so fortunate I carry the name of the founder of Grundfos, also called Paul Du Jensen, which is my grandfather. Is this one good, Bill? Yes. By 2030, we want to give clean drinking water to 300 million people that do not have access today. And that's huge. We want to save our own CO2 emission in our company by 50% compared to what we had in 2008. And actually building a strong story here in a movie-based format. This is really about bringing the attention to the world around water scarcity. And these are just examples of us needing to contribute. It's needed. With increasing urbanization, our energy consumption grows, and CO2 emissions is a major driver for climate change. Combating climate change is about reducing CO2 emissions. Adapting to climate change is about water.
I think we are already in a little bit of a crisis, particularly in the developing world. You know, population growth, increases in demand. If we sort of roll into that, the issues of climate change, then the situation is likely to get worse. Climate change is not only about too little water, areas where you have more intense droughts, but equally areas where they have more intense storms. The way in which we view water is very much based on a historical perspective. You know, it's a 19th century sort of thinking where we thought populations would remain relatively small. We thought that our resources were infinite and the environment was relatively benign. And so most of the infrastructure that we've constructed has been based on that principle. There's a very clear recognition that if you're going to implement some infrastructure from the outset, you have to engage with people, you have to get them involved in the thinking around the design, around the construction of these systems, and you have to make them, you know, in a way that they can be managed and maintained by the local communities. You know, the magic really only takes place when everyone's in the room.
The Orangi Pilot Project was set up in 1980 in Orangi to see what an organization could do to better the lives of the people, because it was a squatter settlement, the lanes were filthy, it was poverty-stricken. My sister Perween, she was an architect and she joined OPP in 1982. There was no sewage disposal system. There was no water. The first priority was, of course, to clean up, to make the place a more healthy environment. Then it was to tell people, okay, look, you wait for the government to do this, it's not going to happen. We will teach you how to do this. And then OPP guided them on what material to buy, how to lay the trenches, how to create the trenches, how to lay the pipe, how to connect it to the manholes. And it was all possible because the system was so simple. And it was possible economically because it was inexpensive. People were taught how to do this. If someone had come and done it for them, they could not have achieved. It would not be sustainable. Because, you know, the lines that were made in 1982 still function. You know, people maintain it because they've invested in it themselves. Now, what began with one lane in 1982, now there are 7,000 lanes. And that is how Orangi, from a squatter settlement of 800,000 people, is now a thriving township of 2.3 million people.
I think it's both a responsibility and a privilege when you're playing a real person. So it was really wonderful to meet her. She's an older sister, you know, very protective of the younger sibling, and yet the younger sibling was somehow forging, you know, she was a pioneer and out there, and Aquila was always trying to sort of not contain her, but protect her, you know. And now she's left with the legacy of that, and she feels it as a real, you know, it's a responsibility. She wants to honor it.
It's very daunting, but it brings a lot of satisfaction. I can understand why she used to be happy, because it makes me happy also, you know. When we make small achievements, when we are able to teach people how to do a certain thing, and we're able to help them better their lives.
The UN has clearly stated that it's a human right to have access to not only water, but to drinking water, to clean drinking water. But honestly, in the world, that's not a fact. There's so many places where we do not have that. About 900 million people lack access to clean drinking water. And 1,000 children die under the age of 5 every single day because of unsafe drinking water and poor sanitation. And that's where we feel we have a strong obligation to help.
It's terrifying to think how many cities in the next 30 years are going to be facing extreme water scarcity. And it doesn't just mean people not having enough water coming out of their taps. It also means criminalisation. It means corruption in the government. It means the breakdown of law and order. It's a very scary situation that we're facing. Okay, now they're going to carry the coffin through the streets, so we're going to follow that.
Seeing all of the actors and the assistants and all this that are on the set, and it's done in such a natural way that I can simply not even tell the difference of who's actually real, you know, and who's in the film itself. It's so authentic. It's pretty wild. I'm actually really touched about it. Sorry.
Okay, and cut!
But it just seems so real.
I think the moments in the filming where actually I felt emotional were the moments where we were recreating what it's like to not have water in Karachi, in real life. And there was a scene we filmed where water comes to a neighbourhood for the first time in 20 days. Just seeing that play out, it's really, really shocking. And that's what hundreds of thousands of people are going through every day.
You know, often I think people at the moment, including myself, you feel very overwhelmed with global problems and you can be paralyzed into inaction because you don't know what you can do.
I want people to think about their own water consumption habits. We've heard about our carbon footprint, but very few people know about your water footprints.
Some of the innovations that are taking place, you see disruption on the horizon, but we can't, you know, keep our eye off the ball. I mean, it really does require concentrated effort.
I think it's a very urgent story, you know, that needs an audience on many levels. I mean, I think they will see a deeply personal story of a woman who's had so much empathy and compassion and was a pioneer and a leader and was murdered in such terrible circumstances, but who has left this enormous legacy.
It's a fantastic story about, I would say, a freedom fighter for water. I think it's a story that needs to be told because it brings out huge awareness around some of the problems that the world is facing right now.
You know, I wanted to be a film about hope for the city, hope for the world, hope for women and for nature, for the environment. There are things that you can do in your own life to make it better. There is cause for concern, but there is no cause to be despondent. There is a lot of hope.